Hey, it's John Larson here on Go Wheel, and today me and my buddy Ken try to see if the Wagoneer can make it 100 miles round trip to get to a Friends of the Rubicon meeting. Stay tuned and Go Wheel.
One of the reasons I don't drive it in the summer is because it is like a nightmare. It just gets so...
Oh, look at that. It's got a wing window.
I know.
Dude, that's epic. Hold on. I haven't used one of these in 40, 50 years.
I don't even know.
Do they work?
Maybe. It might. I bet you they're a bitch because I've never looped them.
I'm not going to try it.
That one or this one of them I actually replaced the gasket in. It was such a nightmare. I had to disassemble like the wing window by drilling out all the rivets, and you have to like disassemble the wing window to get that seal in there, and it's a total nightmare. And all the internal parts of the wing window that turn these things were kind of rusted. It's not right here, right? Turn right here.
No. With all these wing windows and all these seals, and it's funny that they didn't know how to make them. I mean, now you never think about your window leaking, but back then going to the car wash was an adventure.
Yeah.
Our front window used to leak in our old Lincoln that we had. We had when I grew up, we had a black Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors, just like the JFK.
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Dude, hell yeah, really?
Yeah.
Black Lincoln Continental suicide doors?
Yep, with suicide doors. Yep. I don't know how my dad got it. It was probably like 64, 65. And then after that, we had a Cadillac. It was gray, and it had the fucking wings and the whole 9 yards. This thing was a mile long. And it was my mom's daily shopping car. Now I would be like, it's like the equivalent of going around shopping downtown with a dually.
God, it's so big and wide and heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Parking, it's a nightmare and shit.
But everyone would be looking at it nowadays, especially if it was clean and...
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like a very, very...
But my mom we would go through the car wash, and my mom would bring towels because all the windows leaked a little.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I got this thing, man, you could tell it'd been sitting for like 20 years, and it had so much water damage inside that like the carpets were just like falling apart with your hands almost. And dude, on these things it's crazy because back then they didn't relay anything. There's no relays on anything. I've actually added relays to almost everything here now, just over time, add one at a time as I open up a system. But there's wiring, just like loose wiring under the carpet that's just sitting there. And it had actually gotten so wet that you could see that the wiring over time just kind of rusted apart, and it was actually shorting out to the floor. Yeah. And that's why none of the interior lights worked. I couldn't figure it out, and I kept trying to figure it out. And I was just, I didn't feel like taking the seats and the carpet out. Yeah. I finally did, and I was like, oh my God, it's like 4 to 8 wires that are like this wide. I know, I'm hoping we're not like way behind. From my house, it says like 45 to 50 minutes to Metalcloak. Yeah. I'm thinking you're 15 minutes closer, but we're backtracking a hair. I think we'll get there right in time. I was hoping to get there earlier. Getting out of the house today.
The thing is but going back to the cars, though.
Yeah.
People used to, you used to hear people, cars are so expensive. They're $40,000, $50,000. I remember when they were, you could buy a car for $3,000 or $4,000. Okay. Yeah, you could. Yeah. But it didn't have Wi-Fi. It didn't have a surround sound system. It didn't have Bluetooth mapping capabilities. The wires are all in wire looms now and all protected. Related. Like you said, like everything has a
right here, right?
No.
Oh, just go to 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these things were known fire hazards because instead of having a voltmeter, they actually ran an ammeter through the dash from the alternator to the gauge in the dash back to the starter relay. So you have full alternator, like full amperage coming through to measure amps, and the resistor in the dash would just fail after 30, 40 years, and they would just catch on fire. And so one of the first things I did on this thing was after Googling it, I did the ammeter bypass, and I don't have a voltmeter that works, but I did put like a brand new battery and a brand new 100 amp. It falls on its face right there. When it downshifts to third, upshifts, whatever you want to call it, Yeah. It just like, it used to not do that, and I'm still trying to figure
American manufacturing of their cars was literally disposable. I mean, you got to 75,000 miles on a car and you almost guaranteed you had to do a valve job. You know, the stupid things like amp meters and not doing things correctly and wires running beneath the carpet. The manufacturing process was so cheap. It was, you know, literally disposable. The cars weren't intended. Cars from the 60s weren't intended to be around in 2023. That's why they're so expensive.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's hard to keep them on the road. I mean, this thing, to get this thing where it is now, it took me about 6 years to pass. Come on, Audi. Won't pass in the slow lane. Let me get the slow lane. The sad thing is, this drives way straighter than my Wrangler, and this doesn't drive. I mean, this drives. There's a little bit of this and that to it, but it doesn't feel unsafe. It just like you do some counter steering occasionally, right? The Wrangler right now, I'll be driving straight like this, and it'll just randomly shoot to the left, like out of nowhere, like no rhyme or reason. Whereas this thing, if you hold the wheel straight, this at least drives straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the Wrangler, if I hold the wheel straight, it doesn't drive straight, and that's what's making it so sketchy right now. I'm trying to figure it out. God, it's so hot here. I hear an air leak. I bet you I didn't close this door 100% when I gassed out because I could hear like air coming through. But yeah, I mean, I forget how fun this thing is to drive.
It's pretty cool. I mean, we used to have we had a Wagoneer. It was yellow.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had a CJ3A, the low hood.
Okay.
Put a V8 in it in the late 50s, early 60s, before I was born. He put a V8 in it.
Okay.
And it was just, when I was rebuilding my flat fender, I was like, Dad, where did you get your adapter plate from? Because I got mine from Advanced Adapters for the transfer case to the transmission.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, I made it. I was like, okay, that's beyond my skill set. Making an adapter plate.
Yeah, that's all custom machine work. That's what you had to. I mean, you didn't have so much aftermarket support. Everything had to be handmade, or you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It seems like. I mean, there weren't a lot of like the off-road, the aftermarket for the off-road back then. I talked about that with Dan and Jeff too last week, where they're like, yeah, like you didn't have like all this fancy stuff like you have now. You had to make your own lift kits. There wasn't really a whole lot of aftermarket lockers. You could sometimes get your hand on a Detroit or junkyard or something, or you know, like you mostly just grabbing limited slips or power locks from just whatever rig you could find in the junkyard. It's just crazy to think that we have so many like locker options. I mean, there's multiple selectables out there now. There's probably 10 different selectable lockers. I was thinking last night, I was like, I really should go to this Friends of the Rubicon meeting today. I was like, I'm so burnt out. Yeah, you know how we thought we could maybe do like 5 vendors in a day? No. It's 1 vendor per day.
Oh yeah, there's no way.
Well, you know, by the time I drive there, I talk to them for half an hour. Me and Dan and Michael walked around Rough Stuff for almost 2 hours, and they showed me a bunch of new prototypes of all kinds of cool XJ stuff. And I mean, then from there, it takes, 15-20 minutes to set everything up for the cameras and the mics, and then we never even apparently got audio at all at Rough Stuff. At IH Parts yesterday, I probably spent 45 minutes checking audio. Like in just setting up cameras and just making sure that we had audio. And then we kept, we would shoot for a little bit and then I'd check it, and then we shot for a little bit and then I'd check it. And it's just stuff like that you don't think about at the time, but the production part of it, I guess that's why it's called video productions.
I posted on one of my friends' Facebook one of my guitars, and
oh yeah, look at that.
And Emily goes,
it made me think about like when you buy G parts and you try to hide them for a while.
Yeah.
It's like it'd be interesting to interview girlfriends and wives of people who are into wheeling and jeeping and just get their perspective Lisa would have some crazy, just like, yeah, he just disappears for like sometimes 8 hours and he's out in the garage, or he goes wheeling all the time, or, you know, he's always talking to me about cars and I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, I bet you it'd be interesting to see it. Oh yeah, we talked about it. Oh, you don't remember? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had it forever.
That's cool.
Like, why did that guy need to shoot over into this lane?
I know, I was like, oh my god. I mean, the people entering the freeway were kind of not driving fast enough, but this guy, god, and
He almost just died. Not really, but
his load isn't really strapped down very good.
this guy that looks like the Beverly Hillbillies just entered the freeway and shot into the middle lane in front of John and I just now.
Going like 20 miles an hour
like 20 miles an hour.
Slower.
Just like the kid that hit me.
Oh god, yeah. And I try to drive super defensive in this Wagoneer.
This guy.
I'm actually gonna just post up behind him and go slow.
Yeah, he had to slam on the brakes, like, and then it was almost the same scenario. There were 3 cars getting on the freeway. Total room on the right-hand lane. We're in the middle lane. He decides he's going to shoot all the way across into the middle lane, going 20 miles an hour in front of us.
Yeah, he was going really slow. And he's got, it looks like, I was like worried all the stuff was going to fall off his truck. Because
He literally looks like Beverly Hillbillies.
It looks like they just set it on there and prayed that it wouldn't fall off too. It's not like it's strapped down very good. It looks like that bike on the back is just ready to go. Like if he slammed his brakes hard enough. I know, it's hard for me to even see if there's anything on there. Yeah.
He's ahead of us now. We're in the slow lane. What year Wagoneer is this?
83.
We're in John's 1983 Wagoneer. Feels. Yeah, well, here's it's lime green.
Yeah, it didn't spray right. And we started to color sand it. We thought we were done. And as we color sand and cut and polish, we just started burning through all the paint. It went on too thin. So we couldn't even color sand and polish. So we had to reshoot the whole car again. And then it took months of body work before that to even get to that point. Like before we even primered it, it was just like filling in dents and trying to hammer out dents. And I couldn't even locate fenders. So one of the fenders, I just filled it with Bondo because he hit a tree or something and it had a massive dent and we just couldn't figure out what to do and it wouldn't really pound out. I don't know what I'm doing in body work. So we just kind of made the call to make it look less bad.
Did you blow tack and static?
We wiped it with the static. I don't know. It was like the cheesecloth that has like the stuff in it that you get at the paint store.
I just got it. It's hanging on the wall. I played it. It sounds amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Half a baby in the womb.
The baby in the womb. That's funny.
I never went out there.
You know what the best part is, Emily, is the Wagoneer hasn't broken down yet, so we might actually get there today.
Oh boy, we haven't gotten there yet. Why did you say that?
I know, I just wanted to...
That was bad juju.
Let's see if we make it.
Are you really afraid of that?
Well, I've replaced pretty much everything in this car but the motor and transmission. But there was a period of 5 years where I would work on it for a year straight. I was just fixing everything, replacing everything, and then I would think I was done, and then I drove it, and the transfer case exploded on the freeway at one time. Just like the car came to it made this most horrible metal grinding noise that you've ever heard. It sounded like a bomb or something, and then all of a sudden the Jeep came to a dead stop instantaneously, and then I just saw tranny fluid like flying out everywhere, and the transfer case cracked in half on the freeway for some reason. And then there was another time where I was driving, it was 105 out, and it just died in the middle of a road construction traffic where you're going like 5 miles an hour and there's one lane. And that was a 6-month diagnosis that ended up being the little strip of rubber fuel line that goes from the fuel tank to the metal line had rotted out internally and just collapsed internally, so it wouldn't suck up fuel. But we kept chasing carburetor and timing the whole, we kept thinking, oh, it's carburetor, oh, it's fuel, it's a fuel pump, oh, it's, I just kept, and so we fixed most of the issues that have killed it, but it's just like, it's an ongoing joke with me, is like, you know, there was that period where I would think I was done, work on it for 2 years without driving it, fix everything, replace everything, and then something random would explode or fail. So yeah, now Ken's worried. I'm not worried. It's actually, I've driven it down to like Newcastle a bunch. I've driven it to
all the way to Newcastle. That's fucking amazing.
I mean,
oh geez, why didn't you say so?
Why didn't you say so? We've been to Newcastle. This guy's like needs to be in front of us for some reason.
I would have such an anxiety. I would never go. I would never go and get driving something like that. Never.
It's actually, I mean, I actually feel really good about these days. I've continued to go through it for just the last 5 years, just nonstop, really, and just replacing everything on the pumps, the pulley system, anything that's on a belt drive is brand new. All the wiring's been replaced, and most of it's been replaced and upgraded. Like, you know, the motor seems fine. Compression was good. Oil pressure's good. Tranny, I've changed the fluid like 10 times to get rid of all the sludge in the tranny.
Wow, we just drove by the for sale lot right there at Sierra College.
Oh yeah, the Sierra College.
They would be, years ago, they would have like 3, maybe 4 RVs there. There must have been 30 RVs over there for sale.
Oh, those are the COVID RVs.
I was about to say, like, they're like COVID RVs, right? Everyone wanted to go travel the country when they couldn't fly anywhere.
Yeah.
Now they can fly places, and that's funny.
Or they can't afford it anymore.
Or they lost their freaking job from the recession, and now they're trying to make some money back.
Wow.
COVID RVs, that's funny.
I just remember a buddy during COVID was like, oh, I'm going to buy some property and buy like an RV or something to live in. I'm like, wait till COVID's over, because all the RVs that just sold out are going to be for sale really cheap in about 3 years.
That's what Ken was saying. He was looking at a motorhome.
Yeah, motorhome, yeah.
Motorhomes, and I mean, there was even someone coming down from Montana to get one from the old Grass Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, they were impossible to find. RVs were impossible. Crazy.
You could feel how stiff this suspension is, because every time we hit a bump, it's like solid, but this still drives straighter than the Wrangler, by the way.
I can just feel the gasoline just going through the motor, just like a hose.
It definitely smells that way. And another reason I wanted to drive it today is because I don't drive it more than like once a month normally. I just haven't burned all the old gas out, and I really wanted to just run through a tank of gas today.
Yeah.
It'll probably burn a tank of gas going to Metalcloak and back.
That's crazy.
It gets about 10.
Yeah.
No matter what. All right, I'm at Ken's house. The Wagoneer did okay today, and we got some 31-inch tires to try out on the JL to see if it steers any better. They look a little cupped, maybe, but they're also 16-inch rims, so that might not fit. So far, this thing hasn't broken down yet, so the longest drive it's been on yet. Yeah, driving this thing sucks the life out of you. We didn't even go that far. I went from Colfax to Metalcloak and Rancho Cordova. Had an annual Friends of the Rubicon meeting, and this is the longest drive to date. It's about 50 miles each way. I stopped at my buddy Ken's house up here. We were just like so beat from just being in this thing. It baked us like baked potatoes. We both got to his house. I went to drop him off, and I just felt wiped out, completely wiped out. And so there were a couple times when the temperature sending unit, the temperature gauge, is pretty much brand new, and I was chasing an issue with the whole gauge setup for a while, where all of a sudden I think the gauges stopped working. I got a new temp gauge from BJ's. I'd read somewhere that it has like the voltage regulator for the whole not the cooling system, but the gauge setup in the coolant gauge. I don't know. So anyways, replaced that at one point. The gauges work now, which is great. And there was a broken ground in there too, which is whatever. But now that there either could be an air pocket, maybe the thermostat is acting up and occasionally just sticking open, or this gauge is not happy because it was doing some really wobbly, crazy stuff. And then it would spike up, but then it would literally, as soon as it would spike up to red, it would spike right back down to green, like low green. Who knows? I'm probably going to throw a mechanical gauge in this thing and just verify that the temps aren't spiking, because if they really are spiking, it would be weird to go from probably the equivalent of 195 to 300 and then back down to 195 within about 30 seconds. So to me, it originally sounded like an air pocket. The first time I saw it spike, I kind of ignored it, thinking, yeah, it's probably an air pocket. I haven't driven it more than 10, 20 miles in years. From there, I'm thinking that, okay, when I kept doing it, I started thinking, did I give it too much timing lately? And I'm like, I feel like it would run hot all the time if it really was like a timing issue. So anyways, good day. You can see some of the tires in the back. I'm going to put those on my Wrangler, which is now turning into a giant piece of crap. Even though the Wagoneer, I mean, all things considered, it steers good. As good as it would steer for a rear bastard pack, which is what we call them when you just take, you bastardize, you steal leaves from a random leaf pack, which I used another J10 leaf pack in the rear. So mix that in with the Wagoneer leaves, cut the eyes off the main. So the leaf setup is pretty stiff in the rear. There are random TJ Wrangler shocks in there. And I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of a rough ride. You got some oversteer because the rear is so stiff and it's pretty noticeable, but you can countersteer that oversteer if you know it's coming. And compared to my JL, this thing does drive straighter, even though there's something there. I mean, it just feels safe. It feels stable. It just gets a little bit of, I don't really think it gets a lot of bump steer, but maybe a little bit of wander here and there. But it's 1%. If the Wrangler JL is 100% death wobble, bump steer, steering wander, this thing's like 1, 2, 5%. Are so good though. Knock on wood. I know I've already jinxed myself. It'll probably break down the street from my house now. But yeah, we went about 100 miles today in the Wagoneer, which for this thing, I'm very happy for. I kind of want to go fill up the gas tank because I did fill it up to the point of topping it off earlier. It did get a little bit of bump steer right there. There's some really bad potholes. It just had me thinking about roadkill, how they'll go take a piece of crap and fix it on the spot and drive it like 400 miles or 1,000 miles. And here I am working on the car for 7 years straight just to hopefully go 100 miles and be stoked on that. But that's where I'm at. So I think it would be fun one of these days to do something like that, maybe even with an old Wagoneer or an old CJ or a Scrambler or a CJ6. I would love to go get a CJ6 and build one of those next, or got a Scout, pre-smog Scout, a 75 Scout with power brakes and power steering would be amazing. I think that would be a fun rig. I mean, we're holding speed with whatever this little Toyota car is, so I can't complain too much, I guess. Doesn't seem like we're going super fast, but all the people from like the Bay Area go 110 in their Teslas and their BMWs, and of course it's a Tesla. I think the Subarus and the Teslas in a lot of ways are like the new BMWs. I think a lot of BMW drivers went out and bought Subarus because they wanted something for the snow, or they just went out and bought a Tesla. So that's kind of interesting because we've noticed that living, you know, in the 80 corridor, you just notice that all of the BMW drivers traded in their BMWs and bought a Tesla. It's the same driving style that like a lot of BMWs would do, where, you know, they'll pass you on the right in the shoulder with no lane there sometimes, going insanely fast. And I've done nothing today but drive the Wagoneer 100 miles. I feel like the same accomplishment from driving this Wagoneer 100 miles that I do when I like finish the Rubicon Trail and come out to Homa. We're airing up and unlocking hubs and getting ready to like run wherever next or go home. I feel that same sense of awesome accomplishment, like I just conquered a big adventure. That's how I feel right now with the Wagoneer, which is funny because all I did was drive it not very far. My XJ, I would never think twice about driving it 50 miles. But the Wagoneer has had enough failures over the years where it makes me nervous. Okay, this is interesting. This Tesla really had to cut me off on the you know, as the merge lane was ending. They felt like they had to go on the right and not just go on the left lane, but then they've also not gone past me. They're right there. It's just like a weird, you know, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like a Tesla driver that suddenly turned into a Prius driver, probably because they looked at their battery life and realized that driving like a jerk isn't going to get them all the way to their fancy chalet in Tahoe or wherever the hell they're going. Definitely need to get air conditioning in this thing. Ken and I were literally like sweating so profusely that we like stuck to the chairs. I mean, it was kind of miserable. And it was 81 today in Sacramento, which is really hot for, I feel like like a week ago we were in the 40s or 50s during the day. So it's a pretty intense warm-up schedule. I'm gonna go get a coffee because I'm falling asleep.
So, the Wagoneer did die in town pretty much as I was like less than a mile from home. So I'm gonna tear into it a little bit and do like an ignition coil, fuel filters, spark plugs, cap and rotor, and just see if that makes a difference. I might retard timing a little bit. I gave it like 12 to 14 degrees of timing. I might try a new distributor. If you have recommendations on distributors for the AMC 360 from the mid 80s, please comment below. I've posted up on my local Wagoneer group as well to see if I can get some feedback there. Not super good with that stuff. Always just run like a stock distributor in the Cherokees, cut the tabs off and advance it as needed. So yeah, I want to try something maybe a little more modern in there. But yeah, I appreciate everyone watching today. If you're following me on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment below. I feel like that helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We got some good videos coming up too. I did do some work on the XJ recently. I'll be posting that. I did some more work on the Wrangler as well. That'll be coming up as well. And then we do have some camping trips planned. No real hardcore wheeling. We did just have the Naxja Reno Fest event this last weekend, but I've been having chronic migraines and headaches due to a head injury back in November, and they happened to hit for 5 days over the weekend, and I couldn't really do much. I had like one good day where I was able to drive out to Reno and kind of hang out with the guys at the raffle. Probably post a video of the event raffle. I'm going to see if I can get some footage from some of my buddies that were there and maybe try to put together some sort of Reno Fest video. But other than that, thanks for tuning in today, and see you on the next time. Go Wheel.